This is the final match of the Magnus Carlsen Tour between Nakamura and Carlsen. This is the Armageddon match. Now before we check out this game, this is the table for the final match. Now they were all square in the rapid phase, 2-2. Then it was blitz and they scored a win each. Now it's the final game, the Armageddon game. White has to win this game to win the match. Black needs at least a draw to win the match. However, White starts with 5 minutes on the clock. Black starts with 4 minutes. So he's got a minute extra, see if Nakamura can use this in this game. During the game, we're going to discuss some strategies, how to play Armageddon. Nakamura has White, Carlsen has Black. The game began. E4, E5, Knight F3, Knight C6, Bishop E5, we have a Spanish, Knight F6, the Berlin, D3, Bishop C5, and after take, Knight D2, Bishop E6. This is the first difference in the game. In previous matches, Carlsen didn't play this move. So what's the idea? H3, Knight D7, so we bring the knight round to defend your center. Knight F1, F6, just to stop Knight G5. G4, very aggressive, so Nakamura is playing the same way as he played in previous games, Queen E7, Knight G3. And this setup, H3, G4, the knight here, it's got him 2 victories in the match. Castle. Queen E2, King B8. So when Nakamura plays like this, he also is going to castle queenside. So already, I really like the way Carlsen has played this, because this is maybe one Armageddon strategy. You want to castle on the same side. Then you're just increasing your chances for a draw if kings are on both sides of the board. A3, planning B4. Let's just tuck it back with Bishop B6. Bishop E3, Knight F8. Planning Knight G6, maybe Knight F4. Castle, Knight G6. And here, White could play D4, open up the position. Maybe play Bishop takes B6 and then D4. But Knight H5 first. Nakamura wanted to guard the F4 square. Now Carlsen took. Take with the queen and C5. So, another good strategy here. Do not give your opponent some pawn breaks. So that's why Carlsen played C5 to stop White opening up the position for his pieces with D4. So Knight D2, rerouting. B6, Knight B1. Planning to come to C3. Also here, because White needs to win, maybe he needs to create a pawn break himself. So he needs to go F4. Maybe Nakamura thought this wasn't so good because take, and now H5. And Black looks like he's making some progress on the king side. Knight B1, Knight H4, and now Rook G1. So still, he can go F4 and then Knight G2, Queen F3, take, H5. It would have led to the same thing. However, Nakamura played Rook G1 and now G5. So, notice Carlsen played C5 before to stop D4. Carlsen now played G5 to stop F4. So, stopping some pawn breaks, stopping White freeing his position. So, a good strategy there. Knight C3, Knight back to G6, King B1, Knight F4. So, I really like Carlsen's position. Take, Queen E2, H5. Trying to break up the structure and F3. Notice both sides have all their pawns. So, a good strategy from White, because even though no pawn breaks have occurred, all 8 pawns are there. The more pawns, the better in terms of retaining your winning chances. Remember, White has to win this in order to win the match. Are you enjoying the video so far? Then why not like it and subscribe to the channel at the same time? Make sure you hit that bell, then YouTube will let you know when I release a new video. Now back to the game. Take, Rook H3, Rook G2, Rook H8, Rook G1, Rook H1, swapping off pieces, increasing your chances for a draw. B3, the idea is to go King B2 and maybe A4, get some space, but Carlsen now plays actively with C4. After taking, Queen takes pawn. So now the Queen is in the game, even this pawn can join the attack. This bishop is facing the king side, so maybe some tactics in the future. G5. Nakamura needs to create something, so take, and A5. Great move. Queen D3, King B7, and Rook G7. Here there's a tactic. If black does nothing, then rook takes c7, check is a move. So for example, if black played a nothing move, rook c7 check is winning. Take, knight b5 check, winning the queen. So this is another good strategy. After rook g7, Nakamura is saying, well, if we're going to trade rooks, we're going to trade on my terms. So take on g1, take. Now, if it's white's move, he will go back to g7, so rook h7, a great move, guarding the 7th rank. Knight a4. The threat is c5. Then the queen can come to b5, trying to break the black structure. Now, black's queen on a3 is doing nothing, so let's just retreat it to d6. And now queen c3. Got to keep the queens on to retain winning chances. Now, I was thinking, why not swap off queens and maybe put pressure along the 6th rank? This could be annoying. If you go rook e7, then knight c3, and then you can play it from here. The engine gives 000, completely equal, but maybe you can keep playing from here. One option is after rook g6, you might go bishop d7, because you don't want to take here, because after take, maybe rook h3. And in this rook ending, I mean, this is going to drop, so is that, but then white's pawns are really bad. So queen c3, keeping winning chances. Bishop d7, knight b2, coming round to d3. Rook h3, being active. Rook d1, queen e7, knight d3. Now it looks like maybe Nakamura is building up some pressure against e5. But remember, when the knight went here, this queen is no longer defending f3, so it's a trade, pawn for pawn. f3 for e5, so take, queen takes e5. Now there was one tactic here with knight c5 check, because it looks like it picks up the rook. But after take, bishop c6, then there's a fortress. Black will always target the e-pawn. Black's got a protected pass pawn, this looks good. So after knight d3, rook takes f3, queen takes e5, and now Carlsen uses a nice Armageddon strategy, using tactics to simplify the position. He goes for rook takes d3, which is an awesome move, just to make the game really clean, but he had to work it all out. Queen takes e7, check, king b2, bishop c6. The plan is this pawn, well not queen, because there's a distraction on f4. e5, f3, queen f6, stopping the pawn moving. Rook d2, supporting the pawn moving. e6, f2, e7, and now there is a threat. Queen takes bishop, check. So if black does nothing, like rook d1, then that is completely lost. Take, queen. But here e7, timed to perfection, rook e2. Stopping promotion. Queen f7, but now rook takes e7, great move. You could queen, it's the same thing. If you queen, take, and take. So queen f7, rook e7, queen f2, and it's time to set up a fortress. Both players have about a minute on the clock, and flagging is part of the Armageddon phase. Queen f4, rook g2, queen e5, rook g6, c3, rook g2 check, king c1, rook g4. What's the problem with white's position? There's no good pawn break. Queen e6, rook e4, queen f7, check, rook back to e4, b4. So the only break, let's take it off and go b5. Or else white will go b5. Then black's pieces are lacking coordination. So b5 himself, take, queen d5 check, only move bishop c6, attacking the queen and defending the rook. Queen c5, rook e6, and we have a fortress. King c3, rook d6, b5. Cool move by Carlsen here. He just goes bishop d7, then back to c8. By the way, this is a known draw, because after take, rook b6, that's it. There is no way for white to get through. You're just going to keep switching between d6 and b6. You keep your pawn there, and there's no way for the king to come in. So that's amazing. But Carlsen did it a better way. He kept the bishop. Queen e5, bishop c8, king c4, rook b6, king c5, king b8, and Carlsen is saying, I'm not going to move this, this or this, but I'm just going to go rook d6 to b6. I'm just going to keep pre-moving, and there's nothing you can do. He can pre-move so quickly. I think both sides had 50 seconds. Nakamura now ended up laughing and then offered a draw when he was down to 30 seconds. And of course, black took it. Then Carlsen ended up winning the match. There's no way through. So what a finish. Queen there, rook d6, there, rook b6, that's it. A final round draw meant Carlsen won this tour. This is the entire matchup. You can see both Nakamura and Carlsen were trading blows. On day one, Nakamura won the match, then Carlsen, Naka, Carlsen, Naka, Carlsen, then Carlsen. So he ended up winning this 4-3. Here's the finals. You can see trading blows. Naka, Carlsen, Naka, Carlsen, Naka, Carlsen, then Carlsen here. Carlsen wins the match, winning 140,000. Nakamura took home 80,000. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. If you think you've got a little bit better at chess, having watched this video, having learnt a few Armageddon strategies, then like the video and subscribe to the channel at the same time. Make sure you hit that bell, then YouTube will let you know when I release a new video.